I don't really have intros for this kind of thing yet, man. I'm still kind of finding my feet, especially trying to be like more in front of camera and stuff like that. But I'd love to start this episode with you, just kind of understanding who you are and how you got to where you are now as well. What
Of
kicked
course,
off Ayaz to be Ayaz?
of course, bro. First of all, I want to thank you because I appreciate you giving me the platform and the opportunity to be here and speak with your community and your channel. So that's love, bro.
Thank you, man.
I'm a child of the DJ era. I'm a child of hip hop, and I just grew up wanting to be somehow in the music industry. I didn't know where. I just knew I wanted to be involved, and so that started for me at the very beginning, like building myself as an artist, building myself as a DJ, as a manager, and then as a digital strategist, where I help artists build social media campaigns. And at the very beginning, I was like, I can't teach someone to grow their brand until I built my own brand. And so I started releasing mixtapes where it was just the music I would play in the gym. I would make a workout mix and then I'd put it on the internet. And then I got booked to play in a couple of clubs all over London, up in the north of England a little bit where I went to uni. And in growing my brand, I got it up to around, I think it was 9,000 SoundCloud followers. And I had around 3,000 on Insta, 3,000 on Facebook back in the day. SoundCloud deleted my account and I had to start at zero. I had 3 copyright
Oh,
strikes. You know how it
yo.
goes. And in starting again, I realized something amazing about social media. Someone said to me, write a hench post, what went wrong and why it happened. And I started emotionally storytelling in that caption. And guess what?
Mm.
Everyone got involved and they was like giving me praise. Oh, I loved your mixes. I loved your mashups. And I realized like if you tell a story rather than give instructions where to listen, people pay more attention.
Mm.
And so I started experimenting with that. Like, yo, what if the first sentence was really triggering and polarizing? What if there was emojis to break up different lines to make it easier to read instead of a long paragraph? What if I did a story first and then you had to tap to read the full post? So I would run all these experiments and my social started growing. And at this point, people started asking me, Ayaz, can you like help me grow my brand? And that's where I took on a couple of clients, got them to their first 10,000 streams, their first 50,000, first 100,000, first quarter million, few million. And it
Mm.
kept growing from there. I'm just a kid who loved to experiment, geek out with this stuff. So it's like part creative, part analyst. And I kind of like meet in the middle.
That's so interesting, man. And did you have like a background in like music or music marketing and all of these type of things as well? Like, especially like you said, like you had these issues where like you were building your digital presence at the time, and then obviously getting stuff taken down. But was there a history before that with like music and marketing, or was it just like like was it the other way around where like you had the love for it, you had that kind of style and that really curious mind, and then kind of all the skills kind of started funneling through over that period of time?
It's the second one. It was very much like I was learning by doing. And I was very lucky in my young age to intern for Jamal Edwards at SBTV, Posty at Grime Daily, spent a bit of time at Relentless Records, bounced around to a few other record labels. And every time I was on a project, you have to gain skill sets. I always talk
Mm.
about like the £1 skill set is posting on Facebook and Instagram. You have to level up to a £10 skill set, which is filming the content. Then a
Mm.
£100 skill set is editing the content. £1,000 skill set is you're like planning a content calendar. And then the £10,000 skill set is saying, we'll take over this whole channel for you, we'll grow it for you. I'll have a team come in and do all the bits and pieces. You don't have to worry. And I've
Mm.
really like thought, how can I give value to the artists, the brands, the clients I work with? Say, yo, you're in good hands when you work with me. Like, we got this. We know what we're doing. You don't need to think. You just need to direct.
Mm.
And that's been my journey. It's like, how can I get someone from hating social media to have this spark light up in their eyes that they love social media and it turns into business objectives for them, like client acquisition, lead acquisition, customer retention, and like you make money from your brand channels. That's the
Mm.
goal.
And what made you, because it's so easy to incorporate I wouldn't say easy, but it's like I think a lot of the things that are in today's age, like especially with like labels and these teams and stuff like the platforms, it's really like you could be a really valuable asset there. So what made you go into your own journey of building your own business and your own brand compared to like having the resources and the capital that
Mm.
a label would have or a platform would have?
Honestly, bro, I have a chip on my shoulder. So I'm like one of the youngest of like 20 cousins, right? And my cousin, I love them, but they
Mm,
used to pick on me as a kid. I was not the cool one. I was the chubby one. I was
mm,
the geeky one. And I was like, I'm gonna flip and win. Like I'm
mm,
gonna push myself to become the greatest, so that no one ever belittles me ever again. So I took everything I hated about myself and said I'm gonna turn it into a strength. And my work rate is something that I believe that no one can touch, because I know I can push myself further. I can start earlier, finish later, work more diligently, take less breaks. And
mm.
I have this unstoppable desire within me. Like one day, I believe, inshallah, I will be a full
Inshallah.
time #1 music marketer in the world. Like Adam Ivy, Brandman Sean, they're my
Mm.
boys. But I said to them, watch out, homie, I'm coming. Right.
Like healthy
and,
competition, man.
and they love it, and they're like, yo,
Mm,
let's refer some clients to you because we can see you're in it for the long run. They're like, we're getting out of the
mm,
game, like nothing can stop my desire, my drive. And so
mm,
my whole mindset is, how can I help a musician feel that in themselves? Some artists, I feel like they don't make music every day, they make music once a month, they're not working on a project daily. So I'm like, how can you spend 15 hours in a day, like I do, sometimes spend 15 hours working and still not get everything done on your to-do list?
mm.
So I'm like,
That's yeah.
what's the next project I'm building? What's the next brand I'm launching? What's the next digital asset? What's the next deal I'm brokering? Like,
Mm.
always be closing. That's what my cousin said to me when I was younger. ABC, always be closing a deal.
That's yeah. I'm, bruh. I'm happy you exposed me to that, man, because that's a beautiful thing, and it also makes me relate to you on like work ethic and the importance on, and it does answer the question of what I was saying about like why go on your own pathway compared to like these brands and these platforms, because I feel like the KPIs that you need to hit
Hmm.
and the type of like action plan you need to kind of abide by, or kind of the SWOT analysis for them is more different to what you can build and bridge. So I thank you for
100%.
answering that, man.
Of course,
And
let me just add
especially,
though, bro, if I may.
yeah.
Like, when I worked at the labels, I was given artists I didn't believe in. Right? Sonically, I didn't like their music. It wasn't that great. Like, ethically, I didn't align with their morals because they had a rich person who introduced them to the label. Label gave them unlimited budget. If they messed up, it didn't matter. The label would give them more money. And I just don't align morally with that. And so
Mm,
with these artists, they're investing their hard earned money into working with someone like me, into PR, into radio. They have no safety net and no fallback. And so
mm,
I'm like, as your coach, I will not let you fail, because I would hate to fail if I was in your shoes. So I keep them accountable to themselves by
mm.
pushing them to be their best.
And how do you kind of filter through the people that apply towards your coaching or towards your programs as well? Because I know you kind of got a specific funnel with like your original content and then
Yep.
kind of guide through with like the subscription list, but like even when you're having that one-to-one call and like especially from the label's point of view and the whole music industry as a whole, like UK, Europe, and then globally, obviously the sway of these labels and these distribution centers are really focused on hitting numbers compared to
Mm-hmm.
the actual growth and development of the artistry itself, because music is a form of communication for
Yep.
humanity, and
Facts.
that's not at the forefront of anything. And I'm seeing this very very big shift that's happening in front of our eyes, and I, the whole industry. And obviously I'm coming from the perspective of like video and content and industry like that. I've really dabbled with like music marketing with the people around me and stuff, but I'm seeing this massive shift of people understanding the importance of being independent versus signing a deal with a label that's really focused on the KPIs of reach. Like even there's A&Rs that I speak to sometimes, and they're like, yeah, like the brief of scouting someone is to know that okay, their TikTok engagement or their view
Yeah.
engagement, but really and truly, like how much does that really convert to an actual sale of a ticket or to a merchandise? That's
Facts.
not really focused on,
Yeah.
you know. So I'm really beautiful that yourself, Bradman, Sean, and there's so many other people in this space as well that are really championing being independent and actually bringing those levels of resource and techniques and logistics from the label and distribution point of views to the individual. But it's that mix of actually having that ethic behind it, because there's, especially in the saturated market, there's so many, like the barrier to entry is so much lower than it was 5 years
Yes.
ago, 10 years ago. So that makes everything more accessible. So how do you make the people that you're working with, how do you kind of filter through it? Like, give me that process of like that onboarding type of thing. Like, how does it go? Is it going by vibe, how they talk, or through portfolio?
Bro, you're speaking truth. You are dropping, you are saying the facts
This
how
is a
it
long
is.
time coming link up, man.
I can tell. I can tell. You know what? Okay, straight up, I look at energy and hunger as my
Mm,
biggest kind of motivators. If I can tell they're not making any excuses and that they are all in. It's like that
mm.
scene in Batman when he's trying to climb out of the jail and he has to cut the rope to get
Oh,
out. It's like that to
yeah.
me. If they're like, oh, my team hasn't sent the files and, my PR hasn't done this, if they're making excuses, not my
Mm,
type of person. If they're like, yo, tell me what to do and I commit to you, it will be done, say no more, that's the type of person I want to work with. And
mm.
so I always start with their goal. Like, where are they right now? I typically don't take someone on with less than 10,000 streams on one song before. If you're at
Okay.
less than 10K, I got YouTube videos and podcasts. I can send you little courses that will get you to there for free.
Mm,
And then once they're at
mm,
10 to 15,000 a song, I'm like, yo, let me build you a strategy from scratch. It's going to have a load of mechanics that I've tried and tested over and over again. And you're going to do like a copy and paste campaign at the start. And if you have your own creative ideas, we'll weave them in, but we'll kind of stick to these not pre-made ideas, but these systems that are proven to work. Then once they do that 2 or 3 times, they've got to around 30,000 streams per release. And by this point, they're like, oh shit, I get it now. Social media makes sense
mm,
by this point. And now I have to tell them, look, where's your big EP coming? Where's your big album coming? Let's get towards 100,000 monthly listeners before then. So you're on a regular salary payout from Spotify. 100,000 streams is around 450 to £600.
mm.
So you're making money from your streams, which is one of the lowest payouts of all the other ways to make money.
That is a whole nother podcast in
There's a
itself,
whole other
man.
podcast for But then once they're on that journey, like, yo, how do we 10x? How do we go
Mm,
from 30,000 streams to 300,000 streams? And it's mad, bro. It's that the jump of 10x takes 100x effort, right? So like most things in life, you have to go 100 times harder just to move the needle 10 times more. And so they have to film more. They have to use different tactics, like a certain timestamp in week 1 and 2, a different timestamp in week 2 and 3, a different timestamp in week 4 and 5, and so that their campaign tells a story. And the fans get more and more of the story as they get closer to release date. And after release date, there's a whole new set of ammunition that you've been waiting to drop rather than using up all your juice in pre-marketing.
mm.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, that's so interesting, and it ties back to what you were first saying earlier as well about like storytelling, especially on social media. I think, and I've had these like talks with like certain like uh psychologists and people that are really into like consumer behavior and all of these things. And the age we're in is a high level of consumption of content ever. Yet it's such a graceful moment to be in this time with technology and social media if you know how to use it correctly. So creating these type of systems and these kind of follow throughs for uh creatives and musicians and stuff to really kind of amp up and engage with people is really important. So how do you tell a narrative, and how do you first start telling a narrative through a musician, and how do you kind of, especially with yourself, how do you change mindsets for each person you're working with?
Great question. So I'll give it to you like this, bro. Imagine like you are announcing it's your birthday. Imagining like your nephew just graduated.
Mm,
Imagine you pop the question to your girl or your girl's announcing she's expecting. right?
Mm.
I bet you would take time over that picture and you'd edit it, you get the perfect angle, you'd write that perfect caption with, you'd take time over it.
Mm.
But when we drop music, when we start a business, we just dash it up. However it is, we do it quick as we can.
Mm.
I like to treat every day like it's your birthday. And so you give that energy and that intention and that purpose to every single asset. So rather than just being another freestyle or another lip sync, it's just an extra chapter in the story. And so, for example, I was doing a podcast this morning where I was filming and I was like, imagine the songs about a breakup. There's thousands and thousands of songs like that. How can we go deeper? How can you say, POV just wrote a heartbreak song, but I'm scared to post it because the emotion is so raw and I think I might burst into tears?
Mm.
That's a lot deeper than this is the best heartbreak song ever. Like, you
Mm.
had to go a level deeper. And you have to think of your target audience. I like to break it into 3. So you might be someone who's just experienced the heartbreak and they're still in the fields. Someone who's been over the heartbreak and they have worked on themselves, they've done the self-development and they're healed from it, yet they still remember. And then a third avatar might be a couple who have both had toxic relationships and are now in their healthy space with open communication. And so you're speaking to 3 different target audiences through that headline, the floating text that goes above your head, the first words you verbally say in the TikTok itself. So people do a sentence and then a lip sync, or
Mm.
from the caption itself. You got 3 different places you can add to the story.
Mm.
And the way I get artists to communicate is think first at the beginning of the campaign, what is the story? What are the things we need to unpack? And then once you get into it, how can you say that in 20 different ways, where each time you're using different components, different emotive words that add to the narrative? Does
Mm.
that make sense? It's a
That
different
makes
process to
perfect.
anyone else.
Yeah, it's a different process, and it's really beautiful. You've kind of like broke it down like that very simply, and I feel like someone who's coming across this conversation or our content will start to get a glimpse on that type of way of thinking,
Yep.
and especially like what about from a data point of view? Because like it's interesting that you say that your benchmark for entry is a minimum 10,000 streams on each single, and that should be a decent amount of data for you to kind of
Mm.
understand your target audience and kind of use that for the next campaign release and stuff. But even yourself, how do you actually like pivot your mindset to engage with each person you're coaching as well? Because that must be difficult in itself. So how do you kind of go about that?
Sure. I say each artist has their own journey. So some people, they're very nervous and they're very like, they don't want to make a mistake. And so I have to do kindness with them to get the best out of them. Other
Mm.
people are a bit more blunt and they like, yo, tell me straight, even if it's savage. Like, tell me what I have to do and I'll do it. And
Mm.
so for me, I just know that the first single we do, it's all okay. It's not gonna go amazing on the first single ever. I think so. I expect it to be a learning curve. But what I want to see is their engagement rate rising. I want to see their likes per post rising, their comments rising, so that these are signals of like habits that are working well.
Mm.
And then once we've tested all different times of the day, then we get the analytics to come in. Then I can look and be like, oh, your 8 a.m. posts are great. Your 6 p.m. posts are not so great. So we need to stack key messages in the morning as consumers are heading on a train to London or wherever and they're scrolling, they're actually paying attention. Consumers are not paying attention on their lunch breaks when they're scrolling, but they're not paying attention on the tube ride home or while watching TV. So
Mm.
I'm always thinking, what is the fan base doing at the time where we're posting? And in analyzing all that data, they start to get an intuition themselves like, yo, when I did mechanics like which verse is your favorite, verse 1 or verse 2, I got dozens of comments of people voting for verse 2. So that will be the timestamp of my next week. I'll use verse
Mm.
2 timestamps only. They start to get the intuition of if I ask a open question like which stars of the zodiac sign are you, or if I ask a closed question, are you a Leo, a Cancer, or a Virgo, they
Mm.
realize that closed questions work better.
Okay.
So artists, they're doing micro experiments themselves and they're learning from themselves. I
Mm,
want to be like the personal trainer, bro. I want people to need me until they no longer need me anymore. They get to
mm,
their dream goal, then they're self sufficient. And then there's a new problem I can solve for them, which is how to make money out of it.
that's a whole nother segment in itself as well. Like, and especially in an age now where there's more money than ever,
Yep.
and the creative industries, music, arts, and film, and everything are really like they're really high in liquidity, but it's just about the allocation of where that liquidity is. Like, even it's a real piss take to know that one of the biggest platforms, Spotify, distributes each stream at 0 point, like a fraction of a cent or
Mm-hmm.
a fraction of a euro, whatever it is. Like, it's heartbreaking to hear that, man, and to know that there's the three major was it three major labels have like shares in them and stuff like that. So there is this bypass system, like once you know this system, and we're in the industries of who you know as well, which is really important to be aware of. But yeah, I think the game now is, the more the artists and creatives are really understanding their audience, the message they're trying to get across from them, the pain points, all of these things, they can really do leverage their data and the things they're releasing to then later on monetize. But then now
100%.
monetizing and the retention and the lifetime value of that customer or that listener is going to be such an important thing. So what would you say to the artists that are having a struggle converting their audience to really stay for the long term? Do you think it's like a communication issue? Do you think it's a funnel issue? From your experience, like, what do you think that could be?
Bro, you're smart. You're so flippin' smart. I love it. I love
Thank
it.
you.
So if you just zoom it out, yeah, if you look at
Yeah.
all the different ways of marketing in music, right? I'm a big believer in organic social as the number one method to market your music. It's
Mm,
free, it needs creativity, you can do it in your house, and you don't need any budget whatsoever, right? The trap that artists fall into is they spend money to make content. So they hire a videographer, they hire a location, they hire video girls, they hire the dancers, they hire a car,
mm,
outfit, stylist, hair, makeup. The list goes on, and so you're in a loss before you even began the marketing.
mm,
And I think a lot of artists do that for ego rather than for necessity. Like, you don't need that shit to release a song. You don't need that music video. You did it for your ego. So if you can't get attention on your own music, there's other things you should be prioritizing, learning how to get attention rather than thinking the outfit is what's going to make people listen, thinking the
mm,
car is what's going to make people listen. Then, if you look at all the other ways of driving streams from PR, radio, playlist plugging, from influencers, from paid ads, all these other methods, yes, they're effective, but they're expensive. You're going to need to invest a considerable budget, like 1 to 10K, kind of minimum, for any of those levers to make any difference.
mm,
Like, chucking 50 quid on an ad is not going to do much. If you chuck 500 on an ad, it might do the minimum. If you chuck 5 grand on an ad, yeah, sure, it's going to work. But like you said, bro, the payout from Spotify, you are not going to earn back that 5 grand from your Spotify payouts.
mm,
So the game is rigged against artists in all ways. And I think, especially going back to your point about a label deal, I think labels are fucked because the advance against your future earnings is a percentage, and it's going to take you forever to earn that back unless your
mm,
song goes crazy.
mm,
So I'm starting to think, like, what can I do to help artists make back their money quicker? And there's direct to fan companies like Even, like Laylo, like Bandcamp, like selling
mm,
merch, that your fan streams a song and buys some bonuses and buys your merch and buys a bundle of goods that gives them deeper access to you. And that's all a musician fan really wants, is closer connection with the artist.
mm. That makes sense, man. Like, that's so beautiful to hear, man. And as you're saying that list as well, like, I've been recently been in communication with I don't know what they call Artcore. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're basically a new platform. I think I need to connect you to, because I've been
Yeah,
talking to the
please,
founder, and
please.
it's quite interesting. But basically, he's kind of had the issue. He's dealing with. He's basically solving the issue of artists and DJs and musicians trying to sell their music. So it's a platform to sell their music on and
Sick,
stuff like that for a
sick.
percentage. And I think the artist keeps like 90%, and then obviously for the platform fee they keep 10%
Makes
or something
sense.
like that.
Makes
But
sense. Yeah,
it's beautiful. But like, to the point I'm saying is, there's, I think artists as well are also going back to the physical ways of direct to consumers.
100%.
With now, like, I'm seeing this big boom of like these NFC mini CDs that you can tap onto your phone and all of these things, and certain platforms like Artcore and the ones that you've like Bandcamp and all of these lot that are really focused on direct to consumer. And I've always, since young, I've always realized, because I've grown up with a lot of musicians, a lot of artists that have been in and out of labels and stuff. And the common thread that I'm understanding with labels and bigger companies is that they are good at distribution and capital, but building the product or developing it is not there
Yep.
whatsoever. So
Facts.
and that's like a double-edged sword for them, because without the culture and without these great creatives coming up in the industry, there wouldn't be an industry in the first place. So it's
100%.
like, that's why I'm like, I'm happy that yourself and other people in the space are really championing understanding that there is a better way than just going through the traditional way, which has been around for 200,
Yep.
300, 500 years. People are forgetting, like, the first thing that was ever published and created a publishing record was written music, so
100%.
that these composers can reprint them and pass them on. So like, these systems have been around for hundreds of years, and I think, and what you said about ego is so important, and because of the industries we're in, they're very ego driven. And I can really champion what you said about like the music video aspect as well, because I've directed so many music videos where I'll consult with the artist, we're going through the storyboard, the idea bit, and they're just always throwing these things. Yeah, I need to get this influencer, this girl, this car, this location. And it's like, bro, like, the question I always ask artists is, does that translate what the message of the music is to who you're trying
Facts.
to your
Yep.
listeners and stuff, which is such an important thing. And I think that the more we speak in that type of manner, it really engages and makes people think on what their moves are and where their capital is going. Because even £500 towards an ad, if you know your target audience and you know who your listener is, what their behavior is, what day they listen, that 500 can turn into 5,000.
Yes.
It can be so impactful, you know.
Do you know
But
what's
obviously,
crazy? What's
yeah.
crazy is that, because you get it, bro. You definitely get it. I think what I love to explain to fans is, or to artists, is like, where do you attract your own followers and your own fans to listen? Because if
Mm,
you are gonna, film this video and you're gonna spend a bunch of money on it, and then you have no marketing budget left, you're gonna say, "I wish I had PR because I didn't get enough views. I wish I had, YouTube ads, but I didn't get enough views." But
mm,
where do their own listeners come into the pie? Because if you just stick it on your story, you just put one post on your feed, that's not enough to market your music.
mm,
And it's very much thinking someone else will bring the streams to my song. Like, I'll pay someone else to do the work for me because it sounds long to do it. I just want to
mm.
turn up and be present in the video and look good, but I don't have to do any of the work.
Hence the ego.
Hence the ego, right? But actually, like, the artists, and I see it all the time. Like, I did a breakdown. This one female artist called Zaina, she did her own challenge 26 times. A lot of people launch a challenge saying, do these dance moves, and expect others to join in. The artist
Mm,
herself did 26 entries and reposted or duetted or stitched every single video submission,
mm.
right? And of course, that helped run up the streams to 1.8 million. And that is
So,
the least streamed song on her EP.
least streamed,
Least
bro.
streamed, the least
That's
streamed.
crazy, man.
And so
That's
I think when
crazy.
when the artist gets involved and you think fan first rather than like fashion first or
Mm,
drip first or anything like the fan experience has to be 10 out of 10.
mm.
And with mad respect, I think the drill and the rap scene, they're some of the worst offenders at this. They like
Of course.
don't care what people think. They just care about image. And that's
Mm,
something I need to break in this system, that like How can you say some potent, thought provoking lyrics if it might be about any topic in the world, but how can you transmit a message through your bars and
Mm,
get people to deeply, deeply understand like the double entendres, the triple entendres, the wordplay that you did there, rather than just, oh, it's a cool camera angle, I'm wearing a cool tracksuit. Like, I think we
mm,
need depth in this content in this next phase. Like,
mm.
we don't need that surface level stuff anymore. Do you know what I mean?
And what do you think has created this mindset on upcoming artists to create this facade? Is it because of what potential platforms are putting out there, or what the niche of that sound is kind of creating the image? Like, what do you think are these like what are these wounds that are creating these type of issues that are creating these forms of ego? Because I
Mm-hmm.
think in the last 10 years it's really accelerated with that type of mindset with when it comes to brand image, and even the term of the brand image or the way it goes about it is not healthy. We're talking about these unhealthy aspects of it. Like, what do you think, what has what from your personal perspective, what do you feel like has escalated this way of thinking or has created this ego? Is it, but what do you feel like? For me, I feel like it's maybe the barrier to entry and how things are put into the public eye for people to consume, and they're like, okay, cool, if he's doing that in this sound, I can do that. But what do you feel
Mm.
like is that type of
I don't think it's the fault of these platforms, SBTV, GRM, Link Up, and so on. But I think it's the it's the public perception that if I get on one of these channels, I get views. Not realizing that those channels took 10 years to build themselves and they
mm,
posted 6 to 12 times a day to get where they became. And then they offered the pay to play game. So you can pay £800, get on one of those channels. And
mm,
people think, oh, they only post once. An artist like Central C or Digger D or whoever, they'll only post once. They'll do a drip picture with a nice car and just one emoji. They don't do storytelling. They don't do the same post over and over again. And we start looking at the anomaly as the expectation of the everyday person.
mm,
So people who, they got not lucky, but people who got their success and they ride that wave and their hard work took them there. I think modern artists think, oh, I can do that too and I'll get the same results. But
mm,
you got to do the same journey they did for 10 years to get to their present day now. I have a lot of people who like DM me a video of like a certain type of content. They're like, I want to look like this, minimalistic and mysterious and black and white. I was like, go ahead, try it. Your engagement will suck. You'll see it for yourself. But they've earned the right to do that because they've
mm,
created an experience for their fans. Just
mm.
taking the end result won't give you the end experience. It's only going to give you a diluted version of you attempting to be like them.
Yeah, that
Do you
makes
know?
sense. That does make sense, man. And I think there's an important thing you're really saying there. Like, even with the platforms to be where they are now is because of their consistency on posting through the, not even for a year, for the last 10 years. Like, these
Yes,
established platforms, these established labels, is because they have that planning. And speaking on that, like, what the importance of planning throughout the stages of a campaign or a project release and stuff like that. How do you alter that along the way dependent on what the situation is?
that's fire. I think as a basic blueprint, I like the 8 week campaign. Like as a like the simplest way of thinking about things. You can customize it as you get better, but in 8 weeks, so in 60 days, I like 16 days of planning and then 44 days of executing. So in those 16 days, you're writing the narrative, what the song is about. You're writing the shoot locations and planning what types of content you're going to do. You're planning the locations, where I'm going to film it, what mechanic am I doing, and you're getting it all done. Then within the 6 weeks of releasing, I break that up again. So I have a pre announcement, which is 1 week of really cryptic, mysterious teasing, where you're using the instrumental, but you're not dropping the name of the song. Then you have an announcement, the big reveal that the song is coming. Then you have
Mm,
2 weeks of pre marketing. Typically, here I use the verse, I do not use the chorus. Because as you know, bro, if you rinse the chorus and the song's not out, by the
Mm,
time it finally drops, people are bored and they don't care anymore.
true.
So using the verse or the pre-chorus or the bridge just gives you new ammunition in the post-marketing stage.
Mm,
Then you have release day, and you need to make a big fuss and noise around release day. Like the artists who don't promo hard on release day typically get a slow start to their campaign. This is meant to be when the rocket goes faster, not when it drops off.
mm,
Then you have post marketing where you finally unveil the chorus and you rinse that chorus over and over and over again, finding new creative ways to perform it. And then you have you're starting a challenge, which doesn't have to be like an open verse. It doesn't have to be a dance challenge. It's just anything that makes consumers make user generated content for you.
mm,
So they use your song in their stories like a trending sound. And all of that together, bro, that's 6 weeks plus 2 weeks of planning.
mm,
And then I think I need to take 1 or 2 weeks off, and then I need to start my next record, and then my next
mm,
record, and then my EP, and then my remix EP, and then my summer singles, and then my album. And it's a
mm,
constant cycle. And yes, it is a shit ton of work. But what you can do, just not to go on for too long, is if you know you're making a full EP, you could find 5 locations in your life. So you'd have your bedroom studio, a brick wall, you could have outdoor in a park, you can have your engineer's music studio, and you can have like the River Thames, for example. You could go to all 5 locations and take 5 different outfits with you. And if you had a 5 track EP, you can do each of the 5 songs in 5 different outfits at that location. So basically, you're going to have 5 times 5 is 25 times
mm.
5 songs. You have 125 assets from 1 week.
You're a dangerous man, you know that. You're a
But
dangerous
but bro,
man.
who's willing to commit and do that?
Yeah,
Who's willing to
exactly.
organize themselves and take a suitcase with 5 different t-shirts and stand in one spot and do 5 different songs 5 times each?
Mm.
That's the thing.
Those,
You got to be
yeah, that's
willing to
the
do it.
thing.
You got to be willing to
Yeah,
do it.
yeah, and that's what you were saying earlier as well. Like like that work ethic and that vibe does come from people that are funneled through your content, because over the period of time with content as well, you start to see either through data points or sometimes, like even with my own content, there's specific individuals that always keep popping up that you see, okay, like they're really engaging with it, or they're taking things on board, or they'll DM you saying, hey, look, I tried this thing that you said in your content and it really works for me and stuff like that. So I think the more that we amplify these type of messages is the more people will funnel themselves to be actionable off it. And obviously the follow through for them will be that coaching call and that bespoke strategy to kind of escalate that and actually like really be robust and stuff like that. But yeah, man, I think there's, like what you were saying as well, like it's really important to be aware of all of the other factors outside of like social media and all of these things, but they're costing. And what I'm getting from you is how to actually get the maximum out from minimal, and especially from
Facts.
platforms that are giving you all of these things for free. Having a capital and a budget behind it is important, but it's not a necessity. If you could do it without money, it will be tenfold when you do put money into these type of
Defo.
systems, you know. So my
But bro,
question
it's
is, yeah, sorry,
so go ahead,
carry
go
on.
ahead, go ahead,
No,
go
no,
ahead, go
please,
ahead.
please carry on. I
I
don't
was
want
gonna
you to
say,
lose it.
it's just a investing in yourself to make a system. So this beautiful corner of my room is one little space, but the rest of the room has cupboards, it has baby clothes, it has
Mm,
goodness knows what mess in here. But I have 3 simple lights. I got one up there shining on
mm,
this side of my face. I got one in front of me above the phone because my
mm,
phone is my camera. Like I don't have a fancy DSLR, I just have my iPhone.
mm,
And one light over here with the green blur. So
mm,
I sit in this space and I make educational content all the time. But someone could easily sit here and spend 5 minutes talking about each of the 5 tracks on their EP. So they could break down what it's about, why they chose the title, when they had the idea, who they worked with, like which verse is their favorite, which lyrics meant the most to them, like how they began with the beat. they could tackle those 6 points for every song on a 5-track EP. That would be like a 35 to 40-minute podcast with themselves. They could
Mm.
stick that whole thing on YouTube and then cut it up into loads and loads of pieces of micro content. And it costs you nothing. Half an hour of your time and three £30 lights. So, bro, I give the systems away. And it's like, if
Mm.
people are willing to take action, they will get results. And
Mm.
sometimes I have to push people to take action. I do certain calls with artists where I say, load up CapCut, and we are going to sit here for 1 hour and we're going to edit your content together. Like, you
Mm.
haven't done it by yourself. I'm keeping you accountable right now. Let's do it.
That's beautiful, man. And I think
Yeah.
that's why a lot of people gravitate towards you, not because of what you're giving people for free and creating these tailored systems for people, but holding. I think one of the, and the most important thing is like that aspect of accountability. And this is why like there's so much strong leadership from you as well, which isn't
Thank you.
toxic in that manner. You're holding people really accountable for their growth. And I think that's why a lot of people are really gravitating towards you, bro, because I've seen that development of your room, even the audio and all of these things, like bit by bit, and seeing that growth. That's why I've always checked in with you and always
Thank
wanted
you,
to
man.
stay close around you, bro. And now, like, even for me, like, because most of my career has been behind the camera, I've had so many different conversations with people. I've been on tours. I've filmed so many different bits of content. Like, I've seen how people are in front of camera and behind camera. And I think from your perspective, you've been aware and have seen people that make music and what they really are when they're not making music. And I think with us and things that we do as leadership is empowering the people through their own means, which is such an
That's beautiful.
important thing, man. Like through their own means, and it's not a thing. Like I've been around toxic leadership of no, like you have to do this, you have to do, but the way you've done it is to ensure the why you need to do it is for the sake of the growth of where they need to go. And I think in each of our spaces, we really need to champion that voice even more, especially in a time where people are consuming so much like misinformation and egotistic lifestyles and stuff like that, man. And sometimes like it's just about us putting ourselves out there in our content. And if you didn't do that, people wouldn't have had their careers and their lives changed through what they're doing, man. So I just want to give you your flowers through that, and also let
Thank
you
you
know as well,
deeply,
bro.
deeply.
Like,
Thank you.
bro, it's all love, man. Like even when you were doing the segment of like of your podcast where you're like the episode with Brandman Sean and what's her name, the one that does the videography for
Tieta
La
Michelle.
Roscoe.
Yeah,
Yeah, like those were really like insightful for me as well from that perspective of the lens as well, because it's like made me understand like
of course.
the process and understanding like the systems. And sometimes when it comes to like systems and comes to like a logistical way of thinking, people already like detune from it, especially from a creative aspect, because creativity is not meant to be kind of what we're doing is refining creativity and amplifying it. I think from like 500 years ago, like a Picasso will just make the thing and then it's just there. But now that like you can actually monetize off it, like it's really important to actually like develop these things. And I think because of the creative industry, they're really scared of like information and really scared on how you can apply it, especially systematically.
Hmm.
So that's why I've loved your platform, bro, because the way you communicate things, bro, is it feels like I'm in school again, like I'm in primary school, and then the teacher's saying this. Like it feels so beautiful, like the way you follow through with things, man.
But
And
do you know
like,
what? I just want to jump in there if I can. Like I've learned from good managers in my life, good
mm,
mentors in my life, what it feels like to be held. And when someone holds space with you, you feel appreciated. And then I've
mm,
seen the toxic side of life where people are like dictator like with you and they tell you what to do. And then I've seen marketeers out there, there's some not so great people out there who say, "Oh, I'll tell you everything. Here's my high ticket price." Right?
mm,
Or you have to join my community to even see how I work and who I've worked with. And so I thought, yo, I want to do the complete opposite. Like, I'll get into why my brand is called All About Helping in a second, but I want to give the game away. So here is the strategy that you'll be following, but I'm going to personalize it to you. I'm going to tailor it to you. I'm going to see whereabouts you are in your journey, and what I think we should be focusing on. Like I have one
Mm,
artist who's very, very small, only 300-400 social media followers. She's not monetizing for a very long time. Then I have another artist who's absolutely huge, 160,000 TikTok followers, but she barely gets 10,000 streams on a song. And so we have to
mm,
convert her audience into fans. And so I'm just getting better, and I'm working on myself to be 1% improved each day. And like you said, with the studio setup, I've learned
mm,
lighting, I've learned sound, I've learned composition angles, and I'm still not perfect, but I'm better than I
mm,
used to be. And that's okay.
mm,
And again, I don't know if you know this, bro, but my full name is Ayaz Aftab Hussain, right?
mm.
And so my channel is called All About Helping after my grandfather,
Ah,
right? So my
that's
grand
beautiful, man. That,
not
bro, bro, that just blew my mind, bro.
Ayaz
That's
Aftab Hussain,
beautiful.
all about helping.
Yeah.
So my grandfather was called Aftab Hussain. So my
Mm.
dad named me after his own dad.
Oh,
And
that's
so I'm
beautiful, man.
I'm just leaving my granddad's legacy of like every person I help is like his continuation of his life. And so I want to
Mm.
service artists through the podcast, artists through the coaching, artists through digital products. And for me, it's not about how much money I make. It's not to try and get me rich and them, if they get results, cool. It's like I want them to win. I would hate for an artist to do a debut album and it flopped. And so I
Mm.
will not let people fail. Like if you're on my team, like you will get there. If I have to edit the videos for you, if I have to
Mm.
call you up 10 times that we didn't have scheduled in, I will do it.
Mm.
Because it's whatever it takes to get them to the goal.
Mm.
That's my
That's
mindset. I don't think anyone else
that's
is like that.
bro, that's beautiful, man. There's no words to even describe like that. Like I can just feel that compassion behind
Mm.
you trying to attack these pain points, but then also humanizing these things, man. And I think that's a thing as well, like of me understanding like our human nature, our development and stuff like that, man. There's so many areas that are really neglected in our industries that aren't really focused
Yep.
on. And I think just those little things of just humanizing that process and having people accountable, and also just like being so humble to actually appreciate that there's so much room for growth
Yep.
for yourself and the brand, and people can see that along the journey as well. And I think
Hmm.
that's why people have gravitated towards your platform as well, because they've seen that growth and they're seeing like you're not you're preaching what you're saying, but then at the same time you're not doing that. You're just giving it by like, providing so much value for free that people are like, yo, like if he's giving me stuff for free, God knows what when he
Exactly.
actually. Do you see what I'm
But do,
saying?
do you know
And
who did it for me? Like, I
who?
wish I had a big brother in this industry, but
I say this all the time.
the closest people I had was Jamal Edwards, same age,
R.I.P. man.
R.I.P. my bro. Then I had Farron McKenzie, head of One Extra now, but back in the
Mm,
day he was just my boy looking out for me. And Benny Scars, again, whenever we see him at a networking event, he'd pull me aside, ask how things are going, and I'd share. I got a new
mm,
internship, I got a new job, and it's travel expenses only, but he would just put the good word in and say, yo, look out for this kid. He's doing things. And like, those are three human beings that, out of the kindness of their heart, they gave. And I'm like, yo, if I
mm,
could just be kind of like them, I'd be all right in this life. They're great people. And that's how I want to be. I'm 33 now. So these young 18-year-old artists, I want them to feel like I'm a big brother to them. You see what I mean?
mm. That's beautiful, man. That's so beautiful, bro. Because I've always, this is why I do what I do as well. Because I felt like I did and didn't have those people I could look up to. Like I came in at a time through media where a lot of the older generation were really tight knit with their network, with their how
Oh,
they
really?
do things and whatnot. So I was really shadowing some great directors, but their human mechanisms were really like messed up. And that's something that I was always kind of that compassion compass wasn't really there as much. But they taught me so much about like how to be very firm in the industry. And I feel like a lot of those bad behaviors really did rub off on me along the way through the years, because even when I'm kind of orchestrating or producing a project or like directing a project, like I can be very blunt, but
Mm-hmm.
the way I'm communicating to be very blunt is for the sake of the project's success and the time and the budget and whatnot, but then how I communicate it to people was something that I have had to fix over time and articulate it as well. So what was the importance, and you kind of touched on it just a little bit, with the importance on having that mentorship and the correct mentorship as well, because what we're doing now, we're being the mentors for the people we don't even know yet,
Yes,
you know,
for real.
and the people that we're not always going to engage with all of the time. So what is the importance of like mentorship and community? Because paradoxically, you're also building a community off that
Yep.
as well.
It's tough. I think I've struggled with finding who I am. I think I've often parroted a mentor who I wanted to be. So I would parrot Gary V, and people would say that's not authentically you. Then I would like
Mm,
parrot like Andy Elliott, and I'm like, oh, that's not authentically you. And I think I had to almost unlearn everything, reset. I hit my own rock bottom 2, 3 times in my life. I'm like, yo, no one is coming to save you. Like, what is the blueprint you're going to follow and make it make sense? So I hired 2 different mentors, like business coaches, and I love them to bits. They taught me a lot, but they also taught me some things I did learn and some things I will not continue. I think
mm,
with a mentor, it's just important to learn what not to do as what to do. And for me, like reading self development books, that's been my biggest takeaway. Like, I have books from Rick Rubin, Humble the Poet. I have all sorts of books that have given me guidance of like to become the man I want to become. And
mm,
that's been a shift for me. Like, forge your own path. Like, no one else has paved the way for the legacy that I want to leave. So therefore, I can't directly follow one particular person. I have to follow a multitude
mm,
of different people to find the journey that's right for me. And just becoming a
mm,
family man, that's probably been the biggest shift. I always thought of myself as the hustlerpreneur, like just go, 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 go. And more recently, becoming a dad in the last year has been like working to spend more time with the family has been a reverse polarity that I never expected.
mm.
Like, I thought I could
That's
work to earn more, to get the big house, to get the big garden, to get the whatever, whatever, and it didn't make me happy. So
mm.
working to spend more time with the family makes me happiest.
Bro, that's so beautiful, man. That's so, bro. I want to go for so much longer, but with you and other people as well. Like I've said, this platform I'm building, bro. I want to be making this as a platform to be regularly checking in consistent episodes over the years until I leave this planet,
Yeah.
because I don't want it to be a platform where it's like one and gun and stuff like that. And I've heard so much good things about you around so close people of mine that have known you in different areas, and what you're doing now. Like even artists come to me to be like, hey, is this guy really the guy in this thing? I'm like, yeah, bro, take everything
Really?
he's saying. Yeah, bro, like it's crazy. But what I want to wrap this up because of the sake of time. There's so much more I want to ask you, but I'm slowly starting to make a closing tradition. So I don't have an opening tradition, but I've got a closing tradition,
I have a
which is
question for
like,
you. I have a question for you
God,
if you don't mind. My
of
question
course.
is, what shifts have you seen as you've developed in this industry and being the person you are, being like from the race we are, from the culture and the
Mm,
religion we are, have you found it more difficult to make your imprint and become the director and business owner that you wanted to be? Or has
mm.
it been you've had some unexpected twists and turns along the way?
Definitely unexpected twists and turns along the way. I think when I first started, like I left school with only two GCSEs. I left with
Mad.
music and drama, and initially, like my family really wanted me to excel in other areas, like oh, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be this, those typical type of things. And once I went back home and realized like my mom was really upset with that, I was like, okay, I need to make the best of what I've got, music and drama. Clearly there's something there that I'm excelling in, that really there has to be something there. And especially from the background, I'm Somali, so to be in these type of art forms are really like paradoxical. It's not really seen as it's like
Hmm.
longevity and all of these things. So I was really breaking down how I could actually maneuver with my type of demographic in these spaces. So I wanted to break that generational curse of how people are seen. in that space, especially from my background. And second of all is I wanted to move around in this world without having to be assigned, okay, like your certification for something is where your pathway is going to be.
Mhm.
And video is some, I landed in video and content through the means of like one of my good friends. He had a YouTube channel back in the day, then he had a child on the way and just wanted to drop it. And he gave me his camera. So that was like in 2012. And then ever
Mad.
since then, like I've been around a lot of musicians. Like my entry point was always around music through content, and that's how I got exposed to it. But fast forward now, where I am now, like it's I've realized over the years, and like I said, because of all the conversations and experiences that I've had behind camera, I'm like, why don't these things be documented? Why don't these conversations, these humble level conversations, put out there because they really they grow so much. Like even one of the guys that first got me into like proper content. Like he's KSI's manager right now, tour manager and stuff like that. And then the person that mentored him, he was helping Tony Robbins and Gary V strategize their content and stuff
Mad.
like that. So I was always exposed to that level of thinking, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, how can I maneuver in this thing? And the best way that I've maneuvered and grown from it, grown my own business, my personal brand, is just telling people the honesty through so many different things and just retranslating what they're really wanting to do. And I
Nice.
think that's what's really made me understand my skill in myself and refine it in a way. That's why I'm on the journey now to actually document that, create a system in that type of manner, especially for creatives, because I feel like creatives right now, especially photographers, videographers and stuff, can't really monetize until they actually get commissioned. So that's where I'm trying to fight the battle on that aspect of, okay, instead of that content creator, what they can focus on is actually creating a way of equity rather than a commissioning.
Facts.
So
Yep.
that's where I'm trying to like understand that playing field even more from their perspective and pain points and seeing how they can utilize it. But yeah, bro, like
Do you know
right now
what?
I'm
Again,
just trying.
let me just say, I
Yeah,
love how smart you are. I value
thank
all
you, bro.
the DM conversations we've ever had. I'm just like, yo,
Yeah,
this guy's business acumen is off the
thank you,
scale,
man.
off the
Thank you.
scale. And I'm like, I want to see you become that educator. I want you to see you become that voice that speaks about the music industry and how content and infrastructure and equity. You're that guy. You're him.
Thank you.
And
Thank
yo,
you, bro.
keep this going. Keep that content coming. Just I
Thank
know
you,
life is busy and it's hard to find time to sit and purposefully content, but bro, you got it. You have
bro.
it.
Bro, you're holding me accountable, man. Thank you. I needed that, man.
No, of
Honestly, bro.
course,
Like,
you're that guy for
I
real.
need that, man, bro. Thank you, man. I'm gonna wrap this up with a closing tradition. I just need some water for this. This is a paradoxical question, and the way people have answered this is so beautiful. So try to find the underlining way this question is going to be presented, especially from you, because this is going to be interesting. So, what is what is a piece of advice you give out but you never take yourself?
Oh,
I think this is the first time I ever seen you freeze.
yeah. No, I do. I want to think on it deeply.
Mm,
I think I struggle with the idea of rest, and I tell others that they need to remain balanced and they need to, fill up their cup before they can help others fill up their cups. But that's something
mm,
I don't do myself. Like I definitely struggle. I struggle with my weight. I struggle with time for family. I struggle with like relatives. I struggle with disconnecting when I'm out and about, and I can
mm,
be addicted to my phone. And I think what I need to get better at is taking that own advice. Is if I tell others to rest, I need to rest myself. But it's mad.
mm,
I tried it recently, and I was more frustrated that I wasn't working, and I wish I could have worked rather than being disconnected. So I have to work
mm.
on that for myself. I think I need to find what I'm working for, and then I'll be able to rest. If that makes any sense.
That makes sense, man. Honestly, bro. And the question was to really pull out the answer of self reflection rather than directly actually saying something to someone and you not applying it. So it was more of
Sick
a,
question.
yeah, man. Thank you, bro. Do you know what's weird? That is one of the only. I've written thousands of questions over the years. Yeah, I've got a bank of questions. That was one of the questions I've always pondered on, and I've always tested and stuff like that. Like I'm a person that really tests things quickly. But yeah, bro, like that is to really pull out like the answers I've got from them is really like self-reflecting compared to like direct ones.
Absolutely.
So
Kind of
thank
like
you for that.
Stephen Bartlett, at the end of one episode, the guest
Mm.
asks the next guest a question.
Yeah, you
Just
get
like
it,
that.
bro. Ayaz, thank you so much, man. I definitely want to do a part 2, part 3, part 4 with you. Let's stay connected. Let's help the world. It's all about helping, man. And I'm gonna be screaming that from the rooftops as well
Yes,
now,
bro.
man. So big
Deeply
love.
honored. I've loved this. Thank you deeply. It's been one of my favorite podcasts to do, bro.
Oh nah, bro, don't do that to me, man. Do you know what? We should actually put like a workshop or an online seminar together speaking about
Facts.
music marketing and then video content and stuff like that. But
Absolutely down.
that's open to interpretation. I think that would be really interesting.
Absolutely down, bro. Let's
Yeah.
chat about it.
Hey, bro. All right, I'm gonna stop recording now.